Hello, everyone. Welcome to this video, which details how to do a linear regression on SPSS. So just a quick recap. This data set was used in the previous video where we talked about correlations. Really, with this data set, we were interested in looking at whether or not there was a relationship between high school GPA and college GPA. We did find there was a significant relationship between the two and that it was a moderate kind of positive relationship. Now, the purpose of the linear regression is to make predictions based off of established correlations and relationships. In the previous video, we established that there was such a relationship. So now we need to use this linear regression formula in order to make future predictions based off of the data that we have collected. So I know it sounds like a lot, but we're going to break it down into little steps at a time so we can get to our goal, hopefully a little bit easier. And the first step that we need to take is we need to write down our linear regression formula because this is going to be very important moving forward. So if you're following along, please take a minute to kind of write down this formula. It is y equals a plus bx. And this is our linear regression formula. So what we're going to do first is we're going to find out what our a and b values are in that formula. So then we can make some predictions based off of that. So first, we're going to want to go to analyze, and then we're going to want to go to regression. And then from regression, we go to linear. So again, analyze, regression, linear. Select on that. And then you'll see this dialog box pop up, and you'll see that we have a dependent and independent box kind of listed here first. Now, what we need to do is identify what our independent and dependent variables are in this scenario. So we are making predictions of one's college GPA based off of what their high school GPA was, right? That makes logical sense just because of the sequential order of the two. Because of this, our dependent variable is what we're going to see if there is any kind of change or if there's going to be any type of prediction that we're going to make is going to be whether or not there was a change in this dependent variable, which is going to be our college GPA, right? Because this comes after high school. So that means that our independent variable, the one that we're going to use to make predictions, is our high school GPA. So you just want to be intentional that you are listing out your dependent and independent variables correctly. And then once you've kind of done that, you can select OK, and you will get a output that pops up. As I try to share my screen here, the output starts here at regression, and you can see 4 boxes kind of listed below, and they do all have interesting information, but what we really need for our formula itself comes from this very last box here. So like I said, we're looking for the A and the B in that linear regression formula. Where we get that information is right here in the first column. It's titled Unstandardized B, and you'll see that we have 2 rows. The first row is under something called constant in parentheses, and that value is 1.278. This first value is going to be our A in the formula. The value right below it, unstandardized B, under our independent variable row, which in this case is 0.613. This is going to be our B value. And if you remember, our B value is also going to be the slope. So you can kind of see, this roughly looks like a positive moderate slope, right? So it does kind of show, a little bit of similarities between what we found with the correlation analysis, but there is a way where you can kind of look at this a bit deeper, where we can verify that all this information is correct. And how we do that is first we are going to go back to SPSS. And then from here, we are going to go to Graphs and then Chart Builder. This little dialog box pops up. Just press OK. And then you're going to come out to a screen that looks something like this. Now, I just reset it so we can dress it up. But how you will start is you will scroll down to Gallery. You're going to want to select Scatter Dot. And then from here, you're going to look at that first option, select that, and drag it into the white box at the top. And then release it. And you'll see the scatter plot kind of auto-populate into the image. Now you'll see some spots for our Y and X axis. And this is where we're going to put our variables at. Now it's really important that you remember what you listed as the dependent and independent variables, because that's going to determine where they go on this chart. Our dependent variable will always go on the y-axis. So college GPA, you just take that, drag it to the y-axis and release. And then our independent variables is going to go on our x-axis. And then you'll see kind of the chart auto-populates itself after you have successfully moved the variables into the correct locations. You can select OK. And then you will get an output that looks something like this. You can kind of see the graph, the chart here. And we can see, you know, there is somewhat of a positive association, but it's a little messy, right? There's a lot of data kind of out in the ranges here. So what we need to do is find that line that's going to help us determine whether or not we got the right formula put in place. So how you do that is you hover over the scatter plot itself in the output, double click it, and then you're going to get this chart editor window that pops up. After you get this chart editor window, you're going to want to right click on the graph itself, and then you're going to want to select Add Fit Line at Total. So again, from the output, double click on the scatter plot. This chart editor window will pop up. Press on, or I should say right click on the chart. This option pops up, and then scroll down to Add Fit Line at Total. You select that. This chart will pop up. Make sure that it is a linear line that you're looking at, and that for the confidence intervals, we are going to use mean values. And then you're going to want to apply it. And you should get something that looks like this. Now, these two lines along the outside, we are not interested in. What we're interested in is this line that's located directly in the middle. Now, if you look right here in the middle, what you can see is actually our formula. Y equals A plus BX. And these values indicate what we found in our output. They only look a little different because they did 2 decimal places instead of 3. But this is a good way to make sure that you have the correct line figured out, that you have the right data. Now that we have this information, we can make predictions based off of the trends that we saw in the data. So for example, say that someone had a high school GPA of 3, you could simply plug in a 3.0 right here at X, solve this equation, and that would give you what their predicted college GPA would be. And that is the purpose of a linear regression.